Good morning.
Didn't ask permission.
Yeah.
All right, so in the future, we'll check with Blair before we start anything officially.
Good call.
Okay. With that, I'd like to call the Transportation Committee for December 20th to order and to have a roll call for attendance.
Berman,
Here.
Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Caius,
Caius present.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Roth,
Roth here.
Ford, Daughtry. or
Doherty here.
Doherty, I'm sorry.
Close enough.
Was it
Davist,
here?
Pepe.
Here.
You have quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's start by asking for a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 15th.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes from November 15th.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no objections. We'll accept that and it's approved. I don't have anybody signed up to speak for public comment. We'll move past that one. And here at my side, our esteemed engineer, Mr. Shadle. will give us a little committee orientation.
Thank you. Tom, if we could go back to the previous slide, very important. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carl Shadle, Director of Transportation, County Engineer. I have been at the county for about 25 years, about 20 of that in leadership role. You see the name of the first slide here is Division of Transportation. That is actually the name of our department. That's by state law. Most of the state of Illinois, there's 102 counties in the state of Illinois, and most of the departments would be called highway department. We're a little different in this region. Thank you for moving that. We're a little different in the Collier County areas because we have to start worrying about more things than just highway transportation. So not just roads and bridges, but also things like bicycle, pedestrian, and public transportation. You also notice that I have two titles, County Engineer and Director of Transportation, and that mirrors what I was just talking about. So every other county in Illinois has a county engineer, but up in this region, we also have directors of transportation. That recognizes that we are larger organizations with more responsibilities. Next slide, please. So this slide gives you a sort of an overview of what the department is all about. We're primarily responsible for the county highway system. That's the, if you have a county highway map, it's the red roads. The ones you're probably most familiar with are Randall, Orchard, Fabian, Kirk. County highways in the state have been set up as sort of a secondary set of arterials. They're designed to support the state highway system and the interstates. But in Kane County, because of the way the county has invested in the county highway system, several of our routes are now more important than the state highway system. So you see some of the familiar names there. The total system is about 320 miles measured down the center line, but a better measure of the size of the system is actually lane miles. So it's about 750. And that recognizes the fact that several of our highways are wider than just 2-lane highways. 147 traffic signals, 60 bridges. Another part of our duties is to assist the various township highway commissioners in the unincorporated areas. Oftentimes those guys are a one-man shop without a lot of technical expertise. And so in a way, our department sort of acts as the engineer on their behalf, although we are not their boss. Another thing that we do there is regional coordination. So we participate at CMAP and RTA and IDOT and several other regional organizations. We staff the Kane and Kendall Council of Mayors. And you see some of the other organizations we participate in there. Next, please. Here's our leadership team. Myself, I mentioned 25 years at the county. Tom Rickert, Deputy Director. You've seen both of us around, I'm sure. Tom has been here around 35, 36 years. So he has a wealth of knowledge and history. And then you see Mike Zakozik there. He is the Assistant County Engineer, and Mike's sitting up on the top row. A big part of what we've been working on lately is transition planning. So about 2 years ago, we looked around our organizational chart and we realized that in about the next 3 to 5 years, most of our senior leadership would be retiring. So, and that was 2 years ago. So now we're in that 1 to 3 year window. It's a big focus of what we're doing. We're identifying that next generation of leadership and trying to create new opportunities for those folks. And so when we get in meetings like this, you're going to see less and less of me and Tom and more of the next generation. And I sure hope that's okay with you. Next, please.
Sad, but okay. We understand.
Here's the org chart. We're about half and half in terms of office and field staff. 38 professional technical staff, that's in the office building. I know you can't read this. On the maintenance side,
Anyone in the room actually read one of those?
that's why I'm explaining it.
It's okay.
On the maintenance side, we have 32 staff. 4 of those folks are management supervisors and the other 28 are members of the union Teamsters. We're currently negotiating a contract with them. Some of the key people you see here, Steve Koffenbarger, if you'd wave, Assistant Director. He's in charge of all of our capital projects, so engineering, construction, land acquisition. Mike Zukozik, I already mentioned, he's my assistant. His main job is to learn my job. Next to him is Kathy Hopkinson. She is our CFO. She's a CPA, a lot of good experience with nonprofits and other interesting units of government like Cook County. And then next to her is Bill Edwards. He's our maintenance superintendent. He's over all of the maintenance side of things. So this one of the more visible parts of our department. Next to Bill is Jackie Forbes. She's Chief of Planning and Programming. And next to Jackie is Kurt Nika. He's Assistant Director over sort of that middle section of the org chart. So it's planning, programming, permitting, impact fees, ride and cane, and a bunch of other stuff. And then next to him is our Special Assistant State's Attorney, Pat Jager, and he's assigned to this department and this committee. Next, please. So you see some of our responsibilities there. I mentioned maintenance. It's this time of year, we're doing snow and ice removal. That's the most visible thing that you'll see out there. Within the office building, you have all of our engineers, planners, and technicians. And you see a list of the various programs that we operate there. Next, please. So where does the money come from? One of the principal things I want to say about this slide is that we are a quote unquote special revenue department, meaning that our funding can only be used for transportation. We are not part of the general fund. We don't compete with general fund departments for any of their funding. So you see a list of the types of funding we have there. We have 3 different property tax levies at the top, and you see their usage. We have 2 types of motor fuel tax. One is imposed by the state of Illinois and distributed by formula. The other one is a local Kane County motor fuel tax. And then we have the RTA sales tax. And most of the capital projects that we are building is with that RTA sales tax. And then down at the bottom, you see a couple of a miscellaneous type funding. Next, please. So a huge part of our typical budget every year is for capital projects, usually in the range of about 75 to 80%. Projects take a long time. 5 years would be, I would say, a fast track for most of our projects. They go through several standard phases. E1, phase 1 engineering or preliminary engineering. E2, which is the final engineering, which the end product is a set of plans and specifications that you could hand to a contractor for bid. Right-of-way acquisition. And then we go into construction. And then typically we also have E3, which is the engineering oversight of that construction. So the budget you'll see on one of the next slides, what the budget is. That number goes up and down significantly, tens of millions of dollars often, depending on which projects are ready for construction, because the construction phase is the most expensive phase of all of those. Our budget, one quirky thing about our budget is we use a lot of federal and state funds. However, the only thing that you see in the budget is the county outlay of cash. So, for example, if we are doing an engineering project, we pay 100% of the engineering costs and then get reimbursed the federal dollars. So you might see 100,000 going out the door, but 80,000 coming back in on an engineering job. On construction, it's the opposite. The state of Illinois actually bids and awards the contract and then invoices us for our local share. So if we have an 80-20 split on $1 million construction project, you would only see 200,000 going out the door. So our budget doesn't represent the full impact of what we're delivering for our constituents. Next, please. Here's our expenditures for the current budget year. The grand total is 116 million and change. You see the breakdown of the capital there. And then up at the top, you see things we do every year. So pavement maintenance, resurfacing, personnel, debt service, paying for salt and other things. But as you can see, the capital is the lion's share of the budget, like I just said. Next, please. Here is a screenshot reminding me to talk about our 5-year capital plan, or the Transportation Improvement Program, sometimes referred to as the TIP. I mentioned that most of our projects take a long time, so a 5-year plan is absolutely necessary to figure out where we're going for those long-term projects over the next 5 years. The first year of the TIP is basically the current year budget. The TIP is dominated by bridge projects. So if we had 80 projects that we're working on currently, it's likely that 40 of those would be related to bridge rehabilitation, repair, reconstruction. The next biggest category that we have are intersection type projects. Those are usually driven by traffic congestion or safety concerns, but often they result in the same kind of project. So it's adding turn lanes, maybe modernizing traffic signals, or doing something really interesting like a roundabout. And then I would say another thing to kind of watch for in the future is an increased emphasis on simply maintaining the system in a state of good repair, and also doing more with technology. So where we don't have enough money to be adding lanes to our system, sometimes technology can improve the traffic flow to a place where we don't need to do that, at least not right away. Next, please. So most of our construction projects are advertised through the state of Illinois. And for construction, that is a low bid process. So if that contractor is qualified to do the work and they have the lowest bid, they get the job. There is also no ability under state statute to give preference to local contractors. As much as we might want to do that, that is not acceptable under state law. The other thing to keep in mind that's a little unique is we do a lot of engineering contracts. Again, for engineering contracts, we have to follow the Local Government Professional Services Selection Act, sometimes referred to as qualification-based selection, or QBS. That is sort of I would describe that as a specialized RFP type process. So you're looking at the firm's qualifications, their background, the specific people they're proposing for the work. And we're actually not allowed to even ask for a price until we have selected the firm that we think is highest qualified and we start negotiating with them. So it's a QBS process for engineering. It's competitive. We feel like it results in the best opportunity for the county and our constituents. The difference is between this and contracting, we don't do it on a price basis, at least not right out of the box. Next.
Carl, in that QBS system, do you select more than one as qualified and rank them like an ordinal ranking and then start into the money?
Typically, yeah, whenever we have a need for engineering, we'll advertise that and we'll get a pile of responses depending on what it is. 30 might be a typical number of responses. We'll then shortlist that down to 3, and based on qualifications and how they responded to that specific request, we then ask for a more robust proposal, written proposal from those 3, and we call them in for face-to-face interviews. So that's how that process works.
Mr.
And those
Chairman,
are ranked and scored.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Caius,
Yes, Mr. Caius.
is that the same, just a different acronym than RFQ, request for quote, or request for qualifications?
I would describe it as sort of a specialized RFQ process that's designed for engineering specifically.
Thank you.
So opportunities and challenges, one of the things thinking back to when Tom started here, this county is twice the size as it used to be in terms of population. So that translates into increased travel demand and increased safety concerns, which translates into the need for us to build projects and do something about that. So the more the population continues to grow and expand, so does the needs on the transportation system. The needs have always exceeded revenue, so we really could be out there adding lanes to our system if we had the money, but we don't. So what you tend to see is us focusing on the trouble spots, intersections, and that sort of thing. New technology is out there, so a lot of our system, our signalized system, is interconnected. We have software that looks at that. We have a lot of cameras out there where we can see from the office what's going on. So if there's a problem, a lot of times we can diagnose that right from the office without spending the 45 minutes in transit to get there and then diagnose it in the field. One of the problems for our industry generally is that both at the federal and the state level, we are reliant on motor fuel taxes for funding. So that is if you think about the trend in the vehicle industry, that's not something that's going to last forever. So we at this level and at the state level and at the federal level need to be figuring that out moving forward. We have some other new programs at the department. We talked a little bit about the Ride and Cane program, which is a public transportation program for those seniors and people with disabilities. And then we're doing a lot more than we used to with multimodal. So we have invested on our own system. You see on Randall Road, for example, PACE bus shelters and us working on connecting sidewalks that didn't used to exist. And even things like signal preemption help the PACE bus stay on schedule. So there's a lot more emphasis on that right now as well.
Mr.
That's it.
Chairman, no, one more
Yes.
question. Does the Department or Division of Transportation work with CMAP and other organizations to do community planning on a larger or higher level so that so half the people from the north end of the county don't have to commute down to the lower half? And I know it's sort of a high level thing, but more community planning to avoid transportation, the way we're going with transportation, which it seems like everybody has to drive forever.
I think a higher level view is taken in our efforts. We're up to a 2050 plan now, I think. So I believe that has always been an approach, is to at a larger scale or from a higher elevation, look at
Right.
how we connect it all and how we make it better and address needs exceeding revenues. But Carl might have had a different answer for that.
No, the answer is yes, right? We could talk about this all day, I think, but it's a lot of it is jobs, housing balance, right? Is there enough jobs in this area so that people aren't driving to Chicago or Schaumburg or Naperville, and creating the need to build bridges over the Fox River and that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of focus on that.
Example.
Jackie Forbes is our chief of planning, and Tom and I both have a background in the planning area. So we're very involved in the CMAP and the regional planning efforts.
Mr. Iqbal, you have your hand up. Mo, you there with a question?
There he is.
Yeah, I have a question. I had to unmute myself. The question is regarding the long range planning. We have 2040 plan or 2050 plan The question is, how do we trace day by day that we are inching towards that goal? Is there a line item in the committee that is reported that says that yes, we are or we are not?
I'm gonna have to seek help on that one. Do we have shorter term milestones that we use as measurables that tell us we're following the guidelines of our 2050 plan?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say would be, you know, you can look at this a couple different ways, but in terms of the actual accomplishments, you can look at the projects that we have constructed over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you can trace where they came from. They all came from a long range plan and then became a priority and wound up in our 5-year TIP. And then eventually we spent money on them. So we can look at it that way. What else would you add, Tom or Jackie?
Yeah, I would just add that the funding aspects, we mentioned, Carl mentioned earlier that our needs outweigh our revenue. We probably have about 20 to 25% of the revenues that we need to address those long range planning hurdles. And so we do have the 5-year financial plan. We also have the comprehensive road improvement plan, which is about a 10-year term on that. And we're doing our best to address the safety and capacity needs. As Carl mentioned, many of the times we're focused on intersections where the hot spots are. And so, yeah, it's difficult. We don't have the funding to address a majority of the issues that are out there, but we're trying to address as much as we can. I don't know, Jackie, if you had anything else or.
Yeah, I think some of what we make our decisions on too is what we know what funding calls are coming up. There are certain projects that we make are what we call federally eligible. We start that design process so that we can apply for federal funds. Other projects we start and we know we're just going to use local funds. So we try and use these documents, our planning documents, to choose which projects we want to do federally eligible and then align them with the different funding calls that are coming up in the next 5, 10 years and make those decisions too. So that's another way to kind of track how we do it, what funding calls we're aiming for and those projects we're targeting for those.
Mo, I think that, always follow the money, I guess, right?
Yes.
The facts are that we are forced to be somewhat reactive instead of proactive in the approach, and the ability to measure some of these things on a daily basis probably is not practical. But I would say that this group assembled here is doing a fine job of trying to keep those proactive kinds of thoughts in mind and have plans that are always looking forward. So we'll keep doing the best we can, but thank you for reminding us. So it's always a good idea to try to keep track of how you're doing towards the goals. So, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Roth?
regarding the needs versus funding, do you prioritize? Are there some needs that will never be met, or do you eventually try to get to them?
I think we try to not refer to never. Meeting,
Okay,
so.
sorry.
That's all I have for you right now. Is,
Okay.
We
Yeah,
try not to go there.
There's some things that we're working on now that we literally have been working on for 30 years, so never is a
Well,
hard thing for us to say, but
yeah.
there's definitely things that flow up higher on the priority list.
Of course, I understand. And the reason I ask that, if someone, one of my constituents come and asks, I think we need to be able to explain to them that why we will try to get to it. The priority is the priority, right?
I have recently heard complaints about semis, about we have too many trucks.
Right.
And they're clogging things up and just, horrible. Do you like to go to the store and get things off the shelf, whether it's a grocery store, or retail shopper? Because sooner or later, almost everything in your life was delivered somewhere by a truck. So
Yes.
I guess in the next 2 years, while we still have them, we'll get Carl to figure out how to separate truck traffic from the rest of it, make it almost hidden, but still efficient, still delivering
right.
things. And then everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
There you go, Carl.
I mean, during the last election cycle, that seemed to be the newspaper big question of
It's all
the
out
day,
of it,
right?
yes. It's-
Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I was just going to mention too that both the 5-year tip as well as the long-range plan are online. I did bring a few extra copies of the 5-year financial plan. If anybody here wants to take a hard copy with them. These show you essentially what we'll be working on. They don't change a whole lot year to year because of the limited revenues.
Right.
Again, I guess in the role of cheerleader for the county, I think that there's a long history for development and for transportation of really having long-term goals as a focus. You know, starting, I think the first one was a 2020 plan. Is that the first time we called it that, Carl?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Starting, and it wasn't 2020 yet. And so we started this idea of always having long-term, long-range planning and goals. And I think Kane County's been a leader in that area. And even though we can't maybe measure it daily, like Mr. Iqbal was asking about, I think we're doing the best we can, and we'll keep doing that. All right. Anybody else? This we'll move into the exciting world of finance.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask
Oh.
you a question, Bates, please?
Yes, Mavis, go ahead.
This seems like a golden opportunity for me to ask about the sound barrier wall on Orchard. And maybe Mr. Shadle can explain to me one more time what we have to do to get the funding for that project. Is it up to my state rep now, or?
This is Tom Rickard. This is a.
Hi, Tom.
How you doing? This is funding that has been earmarked, and the city of Aurora is the lead agency on it. I believe they have some of the funding that's available, but not all of it yet. So there are efforts ongoing. The city of Aurora is diligently working on moving that forward.
So do I need to do anything, or is it happening by itself? My constituents are crying the blues.
Mavis, could I ask that maybe you contact Tom and have that conversation about next steps? We have quite a
Okay,
bit of
that's
agenda to go
fine.
through still.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
question, but I think Tom
That's
will be
fine.
able to help you with that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Back to finance. Finance reports, and then we can launch into resolutions.
Sure. The finance reports are on file for your review. I'll just point out, November 30th is the county's fiscal year end. So you'll notice over the upcoming months that you'll continue to get a November financial report in addition to the new 2023 report, because we are still collecting invoices that belong to 2022. So the 2022 numbers are going to continue to be updated. Did anyone have any questions on the financial reports?
November 30th is our fiscal year end.
No, all the counties in the state, November 30th.
Well, in a nod to Mr. Shepherd that's not here, apparently it's also Winston Churchill's birthday and my wife Melody's. So, all right, good to know. Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Iqbal.
I have a question on the graph that was presented.
Sure.
The revenue, and I'm looking at the 22 graph. Why is the expense so low? I mean, it's a good thing it's so low. I'm looking at the green line.
Right. So a couple of things. You'll notice that typically for the month of November, that expense trend line goes up pretty significantly. And that goes to what I was just talking about. We're at this time of year, we're collecting all of our big bills. The construction, the resurfacing invoices are still flowing into the office, and they will be posted back to November. So you're going to see that green line go up for the month of November. But yes, over the course of the year, the expenses have been lower in 2022 than prior years.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, Mo, a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it really, it all depends on when projects are ready to go for construction. As Tom said, we may have a budget and something may postpone or delay a project for a year. And you know, we could have expenses one year, 50 million, next year, you know, 30 million. It all depends on the capital projects that we are constructing that year.
Timing is everything. Well, it's a lot anyway.
Yep.
All right. On to our first resolution then.
Right, so the first three resolutions, items 5B, C, and D are all related to motor fuel tax funds. We are required by the state of Illinois to have separate resolutions describing how we are going to use motor fuel tax funds. We present and submit these resolutions annually, immediately after the county passes its 2023 budget. The county also, of course, has all these MFT expenses, but we have to categorize them into IDOT specific categories. So the first one is all of our MFT expenses for our maintenance staff and related benefits. It goes under the section number. You'll see section numbers on the top of a lot of our resolutions, but the section number ends in GM, which means general maintenance. So that's the first resolution.
I think here in committee, I believe we can take these first three, B, C, and D together and move them. Later in the process, you will undoubtedly have to separate them and vote on them individually. But for right now, if everyone's comfortable with it, I will accept a motion for B, C, and D. We can continue with the description of the next two.
Kai so moves to take A, B, or B, C, and D
Thank
together.
you.
Berman, second.
And Leonard, okay, motion by Caius, second by Leonard. And
Yeah, I'll just finish explaining.
Kathy,
the-
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The other two. And none of these three resolutions represents a new appropriation of any kind. We kind of call it paperwork that we need to complete for IDOT specific requirements. So the second resolution, it ends in RF, which stands for retirement funds. So it is the associated FICA, Social Security, and IMRF employer contributions for our maintenance staff. And the third resolution is twofold. It is to acknowledge the county engineer's salary and also to receive reimbursement from the state of Illinois, from IDOT for 50% of the county engineer's salary. So we pay out the total, but we get a check back for 50% at the end of the year.
recognition by the federal government of the importance of Carl Shadle. All right, so we have a motion and a second for those three. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right, thank you very much. And the last one, E, a township request. Gonna have some state funds and
Right.
go ahead,
So,
Kathy.
so the General Assembly of the State of Illinois allocates funding every year for township bridges. And the money is allocated to counties, and at the discretion of each county engineer, they select townships within that county who should receive some of this township bridge program funding. And we selected Plato Township for $166,011.45 to reimburse some of their motor fuel costs for their the bridge project, which was completed a few years ago on Nestler Road Bridge over Fitchie Creek.
All right. Motion to accept the work on this bridge by Plato Township,
Roth motion.
moved by Mr. Roth, second by
Leonard.
Mr. Leonard. Thank you. And,
Question?
oh,
Do
yes, sir.
I have a question about this? Kathy, how do you select which township? Is it, is there a numerical by need? Or Mike?
So there's, in the state statute, there's some language about how to prioritize projects to use these funds. Quite a few years ago, we talked to the the township commissioners. And they pretty much told us to prioritize towards whatever project was able to receive the funding. This funding has a shelf life. It used to be 2 years, but now it's 5 years. So if it's not spent, it rolls into a statewide fund. So what we typically utilize this, almost always use this fund for, is to help the townships pay their matching share of a federally aid project. So in this case, Plato Township was on the hook for 20% of the project cost. This will pay 80% of their 20%, so another 16%. So they end up paying 4% out of pocket. So we have for quite a few years pushed this funding towards those federally eligible projects, because it's an easy way, it's an easy, clean way to help those guys get as much bang for their buck.
Thank you.
Don't want to miss an opportunity. Sounds like.
Mr. Leonard knows all about that.
I'm sorry.
He's usually for that,
Oh,
for the thing.
all right. All right, in that case, the roll, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford, Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Jebus.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right, thank you very much. Maintenance, Bill.
Morning. And in your packet, you'll have our maintenance memo of what we got currently going on. It's pretty normal routine stuff for this time of year. If anybody's got any questions on our maintenance memo?
I have a question, a short question. You mentioned in your, this is Mo Iqbal. May I
Yes,
speak?
please, go ahead, Mo.
Okay. The question was about the salt. The report mentioned that there were 4 occurrences of the snow by this time, and that you had spent 100 ton or something like that. Looking at the snows, the kind of snow that we had, they never accumulated. By the time they reached the road, it was rain. So how do you determine that salt has to be applied? 100 ton is a lot of salt that goes into the soil.
Yeah, it's determined by weather conditions. Pavement temperature is a big one. So we had pavement temperatures that were getting below 32 degrees. So that will form ice, even if the precipitation is rain. So with 740 lane miles of road, our application rate is generally around, say, 300 pounds a lane mile. So it's 100 tons is not a whole lot. We use more than that in one event going out to cover all the roadways.
Okay, thank you.
Bates,
Sure.
Bates, please.
Yes, Mavis, go ahead.
Are we using, I think we're using the beet juice, salt, something like that. Are we still using that?
Yes, we continually play around with different chemicals. Some of our vendors, depending on who is our low bid, will supply our treatment. We call it treated salt. So it'll have a carbohydrate of some sort in it, along with other chlorides. So, yep, we're using some sugar beet, some molasses, some corn syrup, stuff like that.
And what exactly does that do? That keeps it out of from running away or dripping away?
That's one of the advantages. It actually helps lower the melting point of salt. Straight salt becomes ineffective at about 15 degrees. So these other chemicals will help bring it down into the negatives. But it does help with scatter, like you mentioned. And it also has a tackiness to it that will help keep the brine on the pavement longer.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Bill. We have 2 resolutions. These are for purchases of trucks. They were done through competitive bid process, and they've actually already been visited at the admin committee and approved, but we have them here. So let's I would accept a motion for both of these, and we'll give it our official okey dokey here at transportation as well.
Leonard, so moves.
Thank you, Bill.
Roth,
Moved by
second.
Leonard, Roth, second. Anybody have any questions about these? Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And looking over the two resolutions, looks like they're identical vehicles. And the difference in pricing was like $540. Is that the reason why they're separated out, not put together all in one?
Yeah, it's because they have a little bit different equipment. Two of them trucks happen to be our patrol trucks. They're one of the most seen vehicles you have out there. They have the broom in the front and the crane. So it has a snowplow prep package to handle the broom, and our other two 1-tons, they're equipment haulers. So they have like a hitch and a trailer package. So it's different packages. The prices came out pretty close. So it almost was a little confusing why we were separating them out, but there's different packages on the specs for that.
Thank you.
Roth has the question.
Deny, Bill. Go ahead.
What's the life expectancy of the vehicles?
Yeah, on these type of vehicles, for our patrol trucks, it's about 7 to 10 years. Both of them currently are right at the 10-year mark, and they have over 200,000 miles on them. The other ones, as I have in the memo, are 10 to 15 years. They're not an everyday use or not driven around the county every single day. So they have a longer life expectancy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right, thank you.
I was expecting somebody to ask me how much snow we're gonna get. So I'm gonna ask you, how much snow are we gonna get?
Have the board ready yet, Bill?
You're on
You have to buy it.
Thursday.
You have to buy a square on the board. We can't, it's not open yet.
That's a good idea.
All right. All right, planning and programming, Jackie?
Yes, good morning, everyone. In your packet is the planning and programming report. For our new members, I typically give you an update on our Ride and Cane program in here and our impact fee program. And then I select something else that we're working on that's relevant each month. So this month I am highlighting in our bicycle and pedestrian plan update. We are finished with our survey. I'm going to toot our horn and say we did have over 1,000 responses to our survey that we had out, which is excellent. That survey was asking questions about how people use our trail system right now, what types of uses they do it. Do they ride their bike? Do they walk? Do they roll? Things like that. And also how often they use it. So we're using that as part of our planning efforts. We'll have a second survey that launches later, and that will look more at the future, what we would like to see on our trail system in the future. So I wanted to mention that, and we are going through now specific stakeholder meetings. We've had one already. We have another one scheduled tomorrow, and those will go through January. So we have different groups that we're talking to get their input so far. The Ride and Cane program, since I put this report together, we now have 27 people registered with Kane County as a sponsor, and we have over 8,300 riders on the system. That those numbers do continue to grow each month. Next month will be our quarterly report to you on where we're at with the ridership. So we'll have some good numbers to share. And then kind of going to what Kathy said on our impact fee program report, the numbers are not finalized yet for 2022 because we're still getting some changes. So the report that I have in there is not the final report for the fiscal year for the impact fee fees so far. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions so far? No.
Space,
We have-
please.
Yes. Go ahead, Mavis.
So the Ride and Cane, I believe, is mainly for disabled and senior, but are we working on that last mile to work program too?
We do offer rides to individuals to get to work as well who are low income. So we have 3 different groups who are able to do that. So yes, it can address some of those last mile issues for individuals. Right now, we are focused on people who are low income to use the rides, but we're also expanding it to the other groups now as part of our program expansion. So yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. We have resolutions. Again, I think we here at committee can probably take these together. If you'd like to go through them for us, Jackie? We'll-
Sure. The first one is our annual ride-in cane agreement with PACE. This is so that PACE can continue to provide services for the ride-in cane program, like the vehicles, drivers for those vehicles, the call center operations, they take care of billing, and also agreements with subcontractors to handle things like taxi service that we use. So again, this is an annual appropriation that we do. We have $300,000 set aside this year. I do want to make note in my summary that PACE is also giving us an extra stipend of $13,689 this for next year, 2023. We don't have to appropriate that because it's actually going to come off of the billing back and PACE, but this is our annual agreement and recommend approval. The next item on there is our Ride-in Cane Title VI program. This is a requirement of the program. And now that we are the administrator of Ride-in Cane as of this year, we had to kind of update and refresh the Title VI program. So what you have in front of you or in your packet is the approved by the RTA Title VI program. And we were just asking for your approval of this as well. This has been vetted by their legal department to ensure that it meets all the legal requirements for us to receive that federal funding that we have.
This is what keeps us eligible to get the federal funds.
Yeah, yes, we have to have this. It has to be posted on our website and other notices that are required. And the final resolution in here is our technical services agreement with the RTA to receive federal funding for the Ride-in Cane program. This particular funding is called Phase 19 and 20, and it's for mobility management. So this will actually help Kane County administer that program, help pay for a salary of our Ride-in Cane program manager, and other services like that. So as we go through the funding for each phase, as we expend that funding, then we bring a new technical services agreement to you for your approval. It does cover 80% of the cost of this particular funding. And then we have a 20% match that's required. So that is part of the $300,000 appropriation on an earlier resolution. That's where the local match is coming for on this one. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
With federal
yes.
funds come some requirements on our part to make sure that we take advantage of it and the opportunity. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Mo Iqbal.
Yes, Mo.
Yeah, my question is on the item D. It says it's a TSA, which is a technical service agreement, but I read through the agreement and it says we are only the administrators and field agent. So how does the word technical enter into the admin and field administration?
That's a good question. This agreement is named by the RTA. I don't know if that is why it's called a technical services agreement, but this is how they name
The
it.
language was provided to us by them, Mo.
Yeah.
But it makes them happy and keeps us in line to receive the funds.
Mhm. And also, I apologize, there was one scrivener's error on the resolution itself on this one where it mentions that we will not exceed 50%, but in the parentheses, it says 80%. So we'll correct that. In the
That
future.
has been corrected in
Yeah.
Legistar.
Okay.
Okay. I'm afraid we don't have a better answer as to why they chose the word technical in there,
Yeah.
Mo.
Okay, thanks.
Would you like to make a motion on these three resolutions for us?
Yes, I do. I moved for all three items.
Caius will-
Thank you. And Mr. Ford, was that a second?
Second, yes.
All right. Well, we have a motion and a second on these three. Any other questions? Otherwise, roll please.
Berman,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. Permitting. Kurt, you're up.
Good morning, everyone. Included in your packet is the typical permitting report that outlines permit activity for Kane County DOT. You'll see, like I say, the customary format that lists major access permits in various states of design and construction. Those are all listed there, as well as reports and charts for permit activity for the current fiscal year. So as mentioned earlier, we're in December, so we have final numbers for fiscal year 2022. Compare those to fiscal year 2021. So if you have any questions about any of that, I'm here now, later.
All right. Any questions so far? All right. And we have a resolution this morning to enter into an IGA with City of Batavia. Tell us about that, Kurt.
Sure.
And maybe sneak just a little bit closer to your microphone.
Sure thing. So this agenda item is a follow-up to a previous Transportation Committee where this was brought up in October. It concerns an intergovernmental agreement for the property at the southwest corner of Kirk Road and Fabian Parkway in the city of Batavia. Both those are county highways, both Fabian Parkway and Kirk Road are county highways, limited access county highways. So that necessitates county board action with respect to access approval. So that is facilitated through this intergovernmental agreement that we negotiated with the city of Batavia. So it's before you for your approval.
All right. Thank you. I'll ask for a motion in a second to consider the IGA agreement with Batavia.
Caius move.
Berman second.
Moved by Mr. Caius, second by Mr. Berman. Questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right. New topic, but still you, Kurt. Operations.
That's right. Another kind of just a status report for initiatives and progress projects in the traffic operations part of KDOT. You can read through those. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer, but Steven Zolkowski, our Chief of Traffic Operations, is a good resource to I would just call out one initiative that is worth a quick note. It's Randall Road from Big Timber to Silver Glen. We recently, well, it's not quite done, but it's mostly done. An optimization of the traffic signal timings through that stretch. Multiple traffic signal intersections there are coordinated and with interconnect. And we just finished an optimization of those, which involves traffic counts and modeling and drive test runs, driving through just to fine tune those. So hopefully you'll be realizing some of those benefits that we've seen through that optimization effort. That's all I have.
So for any of you that drive that particular gauntlet, there's hope that it might go more smoothly with the newly modeled interconnect.
Hallelujah.
All right, fingers crossed. Yeah, looking forward to that. Project implementation. Mike.
So in your packets, there's the implementation report. If you have any questions, chase Steve or I down and we can answer them. If you want to go to the pictures, Tom. So this is some photos from Orchard at 30, the intersection improvement project. Since the photos were taken, the medians and the pavement is done. Striping is largely done. What remains to be finished is traffic signal work, maybe over the winter, but more likely spring, and some restoration. So the project is significantly complete as far as the roadway user goes. This is our pictures of the Stearns AMP site stabilization project. That's mostly complete now. And then this is some work on the Swan Road bridge replacement project. Since these photos were taken, the road has been opened, the guardrail's up, and I think yesterday the final striping went down. This is the finished configuration of the multi-use path replacement project along Kesslinger Road, just east of Peck Road. And then these are some pictures of us trying to finish up and button up projects before the end of the construction season.
All right. We also have 3 resolutions because I'm going to continue in the format of doing them together, which we can do here. I will ask Mike to talk about the 3 of them
Mr.
once
Chairman.
first, and then ask for the motion. Yes, Mo.
Yeah, I have a question on one of the photos, which mentioned
Oh,
that,
okay.
yeah, before we go forward, let's go back to this one. Yeah, this photo right there. It says that we were delayed 6 to 8 weeks in the construction season. So that's a lot of time. I'd like to know what happened.
That's related to the strikes at the quarry over the summer, over the quarries. So that impacts everything from completing storm sewer work to preparing the road subbase all the way through paving. Since aggregate is used in just about everything you touch on a construction project.
The effects of labor disputes, Mo.
Oh, it's a labor dispute. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Mike, if you would go through the resolutions for us, then we'll let everybody hear them once, then I'll ask for a motion on all 3. Motion in a second.
So the first one, has to do with our pavement preservation program, which we use to extend the life of our roadway pavement by doing more frequent and less costly and less intensive maintenance. The goal is to push off resurfacing or reconstructions as far as we can to stretch out our funding. We utilized our QBS project and negotiated a contract with Applied Pavement Technology to assist with this work. They'll collect and process field data from over 300 centerline miles of the county roads, and we'll incorporate this data into our GIS to optimize the spending of our maintenance funds. The second resolution is for our annual structure safety inspections. We every year, the National Bridge Inspection Standards require us to inspect our bridges. We use that data to plan for maintenance, rehabs, and replacements of our structures. We may also get information that structure needs to be posted, so we chase that. We also incorporate the township inspections into this work. In 2022, we used the QBS to select HR Green as our preferred consultant. We advertise the work as a maximum of 3 one-year agreements, and this is the 2nd year of their work. And then the final resolution would be for the Plank Road and recessed reflective pavement marker safety project. We've been awarded highway safety improvement funds for safety improvements to Plank Road from West County Line Road to Engle Road. The work will consist of adding wider shoulders, doing some drainage improvements, and adding pavement markings. We also already have safety improvements under design on Plank Road from West County Line to Juan and Romkey to Briar Hill. So this fits in with those. We also receive funding to install recessed reflective pavement markers on various other county routes. Using QBS, staff selected Kimley Horn Associates provide phase 1 and phase 2 design services for this work.
Mike, that third one utilizes federal funding too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's federal/state funding.
Nice. All right. I would ask for a motion on these 3 in a second.
Leonard motions.
Moved by Mr. Leonard, second by Mr. Roth. Any questions or comments on these 3?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Passes.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Motion to put the reports on file. Moved by Mr. Ford.
Roth, second.
Seconded by
Berman.
Mr. Berman. You guys were, it was a dead heat. I couldn't tell. There's no question.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes. Mr. Ken, would you like there to be an executive session?
Oh, man.
We won't do it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I can make a comment, please.
sure.
So there's, and I understand and agree with the comments and statements made for truck trafficking, the trucks and stuff. There's a solution out there that's coming, not a total solution, but it will help the situation. But it's a whole new set of problems.
and they call drones. People can imagine hundreds of thousands of drones flying in the air on a daily
The
basis.
sky darkened by drones.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's a bleak, all right, thanks for that, Ron. I guess we can call that new business. For the good of the cause, anybody else with new business? No? Non-agenda public comment. Mr. Fries, would you like to say anything? Say hello, say, you.
Next committee.
All right, good point, yeah. All right, in that case, motion to adjourn, please.
Brought the motion to adjourn.
Roth moves.
Berman.
Mr. Berman seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I'm here, made another.